On March 14, 2025, President Donald Trump issued an executive order calling for the closure of the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the only source of federal funding for public and state libraries, citing that their expenses were deemed unnecessary. According to Every Library 2024, Project 2025, and Libraries. The budget for the Institute of Museum and Library Services, or the IMLS, in 2024 was around $290 million. This equates to 0.5% of the total overall federal budget for that year. According to the American Alliance of Museums 2025, Updates and Resources on Impacts of the Executive Orders. Following this executive order, all 70 employees were placed on administrative leave. My goal is to convince you to help support funding for local public libraries by using your library card. We are all students who could benefit from the resources that public libraries offer us, and these resources continue to be threatened under this presidential administration. I have always found solace in the library. I've been a big advocate and patron of the library. I don't even have a printer because I just use library printers. And whenever I have questions or something, librarians are so willing to help me, whether it's research or about a book that I'm looking for. When COVID hit and the libraries went away, I was devastated, and it really affected how I studied when I was in college. This speech will cover the benefit of libraries in our communities, how libraries are being threatened, and what we can do to ensure that library resources remain for communities for decades to come. Libraries are at risk of losing valuable resources. But let's talk about it. What do libraries do for our community? Libraries serve people of every age, every income level, and every ethnicity, offering valuable resources needed to live, learn, govern, and work. Libraries build community by providing safe public gathering spaces and accessible resources. They promote literacy and lifelong learning and protect our freedom to read. According to the IFLS Library System 2023, How to Support Your Public Library. Librarians themselves are professionals. They require a master's degree in library sciences. They research, instruct, and connect people to old and new technology, and they build websites and digitalize archives, and are advocates for members of our community, on top of just selecting books for the community to read. According to the American Library Association 2026, Become a Librarian. So what is our president's relationship with libraries? Leading up to his first official presidency during the election cycle, Trump repopularized the term fake news, which led to a civilian panic about whether or not they were reading actual information in the media and on the news, or whether everything was just fake now. Librarians saw this and responded by promoting research-vetted content and hosting community discussions around fake news. They shared resources to help people think critically about the information that they were reading on the internet and how to decipher what was real and what was not. Once Trump's administration was in the office, they quickly began restricting information from government agencies. And the American Library Association's Office for Intellectual Freedom was quick to condemn this as governmental censorship. Flock 2017, Why Librarians Are Protesting. Donald Trump has proposed the elimination of the Institute of Museums and Library Services in 4 consecutive budget cycles. And as of April 3rd, 2026, his plans for the fiscal year of 2027 are no different. Donald Trump wants to slash funding for libraries and museums. According to the American Library Association 2026, fiscal year 2027 budget proposal. Project 2025 was yet another example of Trump's attempt to dismantle library service funding. But librarians are advocates for the members of their community, and after this executive order went into effect, the American Library Association, along with 21 states' attorneys general, turned around and sued Trump, arguing that the executive branch does not have the authority to withhold funds that Congress has already deemed appropriate. This allowed federal employees to return back to work. According to the American Alliance of Museums 2025, Updates and Resources on the Impact of the Executive Order. So who's affected by this? The greatest concern is for small and rural libraries because they already have less access than urban and suburban areas. According to Thorson 2025, during a local Wisconsin radio show titled "What Does the IMLS Do for Libraries?", where she talked with the Rhinelander District Library Director Virginia Roberts. Together they discussed that in Wisconsin, 91% of the funding for libraries comes from federal grants. This services programs like ebooks and their web databases and their interlibrary loan system, but it also funds literacy programs and workforce development programs, as well as tribal history preservation. Virginia Roberts states that while they might still have access to some of those programs if funding gets cut, they won't have the money to pay any of their employees because that's where the IMLS grant money is going to. And they'll have to cut the programs, leaving the community without resources at their library. So what can we do as just one person to help fund the public library? The answer is get a library card and go to the library. Use their resources. Libraries are allocated funds based on their contributions to the public. According to Every Library 2023, How to Be a Friend to the Library, librarians keep track of everything library, down to the number of visits and number of cards registered at their center, the number of programs and attendees that they have, how many computers they have, and who logs into the Wi-Fi, and what websites people are visiting. According to Finch 2021, Learning from Our Statistics, all of this data gets compiled into annual reports on library usage and sent to funding agencies to see, who then determine how much funding local libraries are allocated from federal grants that the IMLS gives out. So get a library card and use the services so you can be counted in that tally too. What does the world look like after you get your library card? There are so many services at your fingertips with a library card. It's a great way to gain free information on topics you're curious about. You can try out a new hobby at no cost, and you can obtain guidance from trusted researchers and your librarians. My own local library, of course, offers books, magazines, and DVDs, but it also offers printing, scanning, copying, and faxing services, as well as creative spaces that have audio production equipment, creative design programs for Mac and PC, sewing machines, and even 3D printers. They offer career services and test administration services for people who go to school online and need a quiet place to take their exams. And they even have a seed library for flower and veggie gardens, according to Dakota County Library 2024, using the library. So ask yourself, do I know where my library card is? When was the last time I even went to the library? What was the title of that book that I got there? If you don't remember, I urge you to go back to the library and reapply for a new library card. It's really easy. When I did it in Dakota County, all I had to do was bring my ID with verification of where I lived, and they gave me a new library card for free. In conclusion, this current administration has a history of trying to dismantle the funding of library programs across America, which in turn strips Americans from their access to information, community, and educational growth. Librarians are advocates for each of us in our community, and they've done the work to keep their services accessible to the American public. We have a duty to our neighbors to use the library and its resources so that they can continue to receive funding through the systems that are currently set up to support them. The easiest way we can do that is by going to the library and checking out a book. I hope that this encourages you to check out your local library. Thank you so much.